It's 6 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Please rise and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, thank you guys for joining us. I'm Abby Hawkins. I'm our Sherwood School District Board Chair. I have actually never got to attend a joint city school board meeting before, which is shocking, but we didn't get to have one last year and I was gone for our meeting this fall. So I'm very excited to get to be at the table with you guys and have these conversations and just kind of feel like we're working a little bit more as a team together. So we're going to start by going around the room and just giving introductions. And I think it makes sense just to go down the line. So if that's okay, I'll start with you, Director Lee.
Yeah, I'm Director Lee. I'm part of the Sherwood School Board.
I'm Doug Scott, City Council.
Harmony Carson, Sherwood School Board.
Keith Campbell, City Manager for the City of Sherwood. You don't want to introduce yourself again?
I already did.
Okay. Tim Rosner, Mayor, Sherwood.
Jeremy Lyons, Superintendent.
Renee Browse, City Council.
Krista Thorne, Vice Chair, Sherwood School Board.
Taylor Giles, City Councilor.
Kim Young, City Councilor. Jessica Adamson, School Board.
Dan Stankey, City Councilor.
You guys did a really good job using those mics. Everyone did it. That was like a mic check. All right. Well, we are going to start off this evening with a little bit of an update from Dr. Lyon, as well as our city manager, Keith Campbell.
All right. Keith, do you want to go first? Speak. Okay. Well, thank you. I will keep it very short. I don't want to miss the opportunity to thank the city council members for the support that you've given the district this year. Particularly thanking Keith. You and I see very much eye to eye on how we look at things, and I think it's just very, very powerful for our community to know that we are really, really invested on doing the right thing for this community, for the school district. And I feel like there's no problem we can't solve together and come out on the right side of. So I just really appreciate that spirit of partnership, and we get to talk basketball a lot, which is always great. So thank you for that. I won't go long in terms of where we are as a district. We actually are at the latter part of, from a student perspective, what I would consider a very successful school year. We protected the classrooms with the cuts in the fall, and we have been able to pull off what we were committed to pull off, and that is a very, very good student experience this year. And I know many of you have students in the school district. The smiles on the faces, the activities that I see the high school kids involved in, the athletic participation, a band program like none other that runs all the way through our school system, the musical that we have coming up, Beauty and the Beast. These are all really, really important elements that we have all invested in and embraced. And I'm very, very pleased by that. I'm very pleased with the feedback that I get from students regarding how much they love their schools, how active they are. They're very active, our high school kids, and in the way that they get involved in all kinds of things. They're very generous, the student body. So that's been the most satisfying thing, and that's something that we are completely committed to. And I know that is an all-in with all of us in regards to what we want for our community. And then I won't belabor the point with the budget difficulties that we've had, other than to say the city has been very supportive and has helped tremendously with our enterprise and understanding that. And we have some opportunities in the future that will help. But the spirit of our employees remains strong. They know what they're up against. We all know what we're up against, but really our focus and commitment is to is to end the school year on a really high note and have a great graduation ceremony and close that year out. And we'll deal with the future with whatever it holds. So, yeah. Keith?
Thank you, Dr. Line. I want to echo your comments. I've enjoyed and appreciated and just had so much joy in just working with you and working with the school district. And I think the fact that this is our second one of these really illustrates the commitment to working together, and have enjoyed the partnership and looking forward to the future. So I've been humbled and just blessed, and thank you for that. I did want to do a couple updates from the city, just I think things that may be important. Something else I want to say is I really appreciate Dr. Line and his staff in their efforts to help with economic development, and just been an outstanding partner and says yes to ask. And when we look at economic development, there's key components, and the schools are a symbiotic relationship with what we're looking for in terms of trying to bring in what we call traded sector jobs. One of the big areas is the Tonkin employment area. And this really is consistent with our council goals and objectives, and has been for a long time. And the key really is to diversify our tax base, to bring in high paying local jobs. Traded sector jobs is the word we like to use, and to create a stronger revenue base for all types of public services, including the school district. The city has really targeted semiconductors, advanced manufacturing, and technology companies to bring into that area. The Tonkin employment area consists of about 300 acres. It's bordered by Tualatin Sherwood Road on the north and 124th Street on the east, and Southwest Oregon Street on the west, and the Tonkin Road UGB on the south. So just to give you an idea of where that is, this has been a long planned project. It first started by UGB being added by Metro in 2004. In 2010, the concept plan was designated and adopted by the city council. And in 2015, a high-level plan for infrastructure transportation development was created. So when we talk about how much planning and time has gone into seeing this vision be created, that really does illustrate that. It's a challenging area. The Missoula floods have created a unique situation with the land there. So that's another challenge that we're dealing with and having to be creative with. Over the last 4 years, the city council has annexed about 185 acres into the Tonkin employment area. When we talk about success, we really have had success and progress in recruiting the type of businesses we wanted. NSI Manufacturing is a German-based company. They work in advanced manufacturing, the semiconductor, solar, clean tech supply chain. DW Fritz is a Swedish-owned company, advanced manufacturing for many tech industries. Customers are Fortune 10 type customers. And Lamb Research, they've done 2 expansions into Sherwood so far. One of the 4 largest semiconductor tool manufacturers in the world. Lamb first did a recruitment in 2021 and just expanded again in late 2022. Also excited about another area. It's the Schnitzer property. It's the Sherwood Commerce Center. It's east side of Oregon Street. They just began construction on phase 1. The first phase of that is 445,000 square feet, with a second phase planned of 500,000. So an additional 1 million square feet coming from that. We are excited in hearing that some of the targeted businesses are what they call trading papers. So we don't anticipate these buildings to be completed until the spring of 2024. There's already a strong interest for continuing to expand into that area. Totally, for the potential for the Tonkin employment area, we're looking at 2.3 million square feet of industrial space over the next 5 years. So really exciting. And that really leads into the next thing that I think I really want to highlight, which is the career technical education program we've been working on. And this has really been a great partnership with the superintendent, with Adam Mitchell and Liz Barrett, and the talented teaching staff. We've been appreciative of the communication and the work that's being done. As we're looking into bringing these traded sector businesses, we really appreciate the school district's willingness to talk to them. An important part of what these businesses are looking for is a high quality of life, which Sherwood offers, and great schools. So it really is that component of this is how we sell to these companies and the success that we've had in these areas. It's also important that we can talk about having a future for these businesses to have employees who can be successful in the future. So these CTE programs are key to illustrating that not only the workforce now, but the workforce in the future. And it's a big selling point that we have as well. And it's an opportunity to prepare Sherwood School students for a career and meaningful jobs that are living wage jobs that they can be successful on. And so we really appreciate the partnership and the close connection we've had in that. Other thing is personally and professionally exciting for me is the 99W bridge. We are at 90% design. We're anticipating getting 100% design June of this year, going out for bid shortly thereafter. So just another exciting project, something that we're really looking forward to as well. So just a couple updates I wanted to give on, I think, things that would be important for this group, and happy to answer any questions at any point.
With the bridge, with bids going out, what's the timeline or like the goal timeline for receiving feedback, or not feedback, but like people putting in their bids and then you guys selecting who you're going to go with and then construction start? What would be the timeline?
So really we'd be looking at is completing that 100% design in June, getting the bid documents ready and that going out in July, doing a bidding process, hopefully completing that at some point in August, going to the council for that. So we're really looking at that late August timeframe, and then construction timeframe is anticipated to be approximately 1 year.
It'd be very cool to have it ready by the following school year. That would be cool. I hope it stays on task.
Yeah, we've been working really hard to make sure the council wants the bridge yesterday.
Yesterday,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know.
So
There's a lot of things that are out of your control when you build things like that, but that would be very cool to see a big opening celebration like prior to a school year starting.
I think one of the exciting things that we've been talking about at the council level too is the lighting on the bridge and really trying to make that a component of what the school is doing. So on football nights, to be able to have the colors there, to be able to do things to try to work together.
I want a button, so when they score, our team scores, not the other team, that there's some kind of light show on the bridge.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Cost us
It could be a traffic.
We'll see what ODOT has
Could
to
be a
say.
traffic issue.
This,
I love the lights idea, bringing the whole community. I mean, that's community 101 right there. I love that.
so there's 5 different spans and working to make sure that we can do different lightings with each of the spans and to be, something of a community partner. And this is what the council's talked about. The mayor has the vision of the light show. We'll see what ODOT has to say, but I think these are the kind of exciting things of what we can do to partner with that. So we really are excited about the bridge and looking forward. We have some more renderings coming up, really showing what it'll look like with the lights on it. That's coming up in, I think, the May 2nd city council meeting. So looking forward to having more conversations and showing that bridge. It's really beautiful. And like I said earlier, I'm personally and professionally excited about showing that to the community as we get really close to being done here.
And as the liaison to the Cultural Arts Committee, I also would like to say that there was a lot of discussion about artwork and, beautifying the actual cement area of the bridge and the entryways and things. And one of the ideas that is currently being looked at by the high school representative on the committee was to how to integrate high schoolers and artwork from students and things like that, right? And so they're looking at potential opportunities for that. And so we really want it to be not only a showcase for the city, but also for the school and the students. So
I just want to thank you, Keith, for talking about the importance of the partnership with the district relative to recruiting new businesses to Sherwood. I'm not sure that our citizens fully necessarily know how significant, how important high quality education is to recruiting trade sector jobs, which are the kind of prize that every community, not only in this state, but across the country are competing for, are high-tech jobs that spin off and help grow communities in ways that are pretty exponential and important. These are truly the top of the top, and that high quality education is a key component of what they're looking for, is such an important thing for folks to understand. So thank you for sharing that tonight.
You're absolutely correct. In Oregon, it's really tough when these companies come from overseas. We just hosted one not too long ago. What incentives do you have? In Oregon, we really don't have any incentives. So what we do and what we sell and what we make part of our tour is to drive by the high school and to talk about the schools. The chief out here knows the other public safety is another big component of that, and quality of life. And so what we see is when we're able to talk about the schools and show the school, it is the moment we feel like we kind of capture some of those businesses. And I think the success we've had in some of these foreign companies coming in, it illustrates what they're seeing and the vision that they're understanding. So.
And I just wanted to add one thing, because there is actually a second, and the technical term is grade separated crossing or bridge, depending on your perspective. But we're also looking at Cedar Creek near Meineke. And it's actually a project that's been on the books for years. It's a question of funding. I know there are some questions on why didn't we do that one first before we're doing the one at Sunset? And frankly, the lift to fund the Sunset Bridge was a lot easier, even though it was hard, than the lift to fund the other bridge. Because for Cedar Creek, we actually have to lift 99 West and put like probably 2 50-foot spans in there to lift it up. Now it's an ODOT project. It's a federalized project because it's state road and a lot more money. But that being said, right now we're working with Salem to get $600,000 to start doing the initial engineering work on that, so we kind of understand what that project looks like. And once we have that, then we're in what I like to say, we're grant ready, right? And we're in a position where we can actually go out and lobby, whether it's the state government or the federal government, to try to bring the monies in. We need to get that bridge done. It's kind of where we were at with the bridge, the current bridge we're talking about, 4 or 5 years ago, when we were lobbying and trying to figure out how do we fund that bridge. So more fun stuff coming.
We are incredibly lucky to have partners like that in this community, to know that you guys are working on those projects and trying to make our town more beautiful, more functional is incredible. I mean, I think that's amazing that you guys are constantly working on that. And I had the opportunity, as well as many of the other board members in this room, to attend the, or we called it was a high school like think tank night, really. And it was with many of these industry partners. And it was very cool to sit there and have these small group conversations about what they're looking for and how our high school can partner with them and what they're also able to offer to our high school in partnership. And I think those are some really amazing relationships that we can establish there and have really cool opportunities for our kids that we wouldn't be able to offer them elsewhere. So we appreciate you guys' work with that. Okay, up next, we're going to have a levy update from Dr. Lynn.
Thank you. I kind of want to underscore what our city manager just said related to the levy. If our efforts to attract new corporations and new businesses rely on quality of life dimensions and the showcase high school that we have to counteract the incentives that other states provide, and if we're successful in that, then we have to realize that that high school and that 2016 bond is a key asset that has a return on investment. And one thing that we've learned during this levy journey is that, in fact, the tax rate that was in place prior to the 2016 bond, and Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, but today it is lower than it was prior to the 2016 bond, which you can't, no one's making the argument that that means the bond didn't come at any cost, because you are issuing bonds out into the future. But the community and the school district delivered on the promise of, number one, a quality educational facility that has enhanced the assets of this community to be in a position to attract economic development ventures that are very, very important. And number two, it has demonstrated in the mere 7 years to have a pretty good return on investment. So we've learned a lot of things regarding this levy, and my update will be that the district is deploying every single thing that we intended when we strategized after the board made the decision to go forward with the levy. We have deployed and have been successful in our calendaring on every single item. And we're in a very strong position right now regarding the effort to educate and inform our community. And so we are 28 days after tonight away from that election, and we have our game plan in order to provide accurate, transparent, high accountability information to this community at every turn. And so the forums that we have been holding and the information that we've been sharing in principal letters home and other communication messages continue to be focused on the quality of education that we're providing, the loss that will occur if we have to actually implement the layoffs related to the $6 million hole that we have, and the opportunity of this levy to provide long-term stability for funding for the Sherwood School District that raises Sherwood dollars that stay in Sherwood. For those who are willing to go to our website and to look at our materials, there is a external, internal logic to it that we believe is a very clean and accurate message. And you couple that with the efforts that we have made internally to share with the public exactly what we're doing with our finances. And we're in about the position, we are exactly in the position that we want to be a month away from this levy election. So huge shout out to Christine, who is our board assistant, our superintendent assistant, and now our full-time communications director. She has done a magnificent job working with the state to make sure our materials are accurate and information only, and to put it all together to have a communication plan that is very, very coherent. And with that said, I think it's very valuable to get input from what you're seeing as community members related to this levy. So Abby, I'll turn it back over to you, and if you want to just go around or however you want to do.
Yeah, sure. We would be happy to hear anybody's feedback. So you guys are welcome to hit your mic if you want to share with us, and we don't have to go in a direct circle. Yeah, go ahead.
I've said it before when you came and presented at council, but what I really appreciate is the transparency that the district has been doing, and the information that is on the website is just tremendous. That calculator was genius. I mean, that made it so easy, and to give a link to where people could look at their property tax bill and not have to go look through their filing cabinet to find it, was just super helpful. I wish more people would be driven there. I mean, we know it's there. So on social media, we just try to direct everybody there when we're chatting or trying to give some facts. I still think there's some people that don't quite understand everything. And so I think if we can just keep driving people to that website, all the information is there, meetings. And if people don't want to sit and watch an hour meeting, you put all the slides there. I just really appreciate the district has been super transparent through this whole process.
I'll say that the top thing that I hear, and I know it's a misconception, but is when people say, well, I already pay enough money in taxes for the schools, they should be able to, and so I would just say that, I feel like a broken record sometimes saying, that money goes to Salem and then they divvy it up, put it in a form, and I just go through that whole thing. And to say this money stays in Sherwood and it is for, the teachers and the programs. Again, I know that that's on the website and I've seen it. I almost want to put a banner up outside my house that says the money stays in Sherwood, right? Or something to that effect, because, frankly, that's the big negative that I keep hearing about it. And it's, I think, easily explained. And I think everybody that I have that conversation with, where they know, oh, it stays in Sherwood, like you can see them, I don't know if I fully convert them, but you can see their mind changing. So.
Well, not only to your point, does it stay in Sherwood, but I have no idea where my federal taxes are going. I could have the slightest clue where they're going. I have no idea where my state taxes are going, my income taxes, and I have no idea. I know that the areas in which my property taxes are going, but I don't know how much. And I don't even really know even then if I can rely on that. So the cool thing about this also is that not only do they stay in Sherwood, but the citizens of Sherwood will see where every single penny of those dollars go. So it is absolute complete local control, which is something that you hear people talk about. That is their desire, that is their want. They want local control over and over and over again. And we have that opportunity with this. So thank you for bringing that up.
We can definitely get you a banner though, if you'd like one. I can order one of those this evening. I will say this though, I had someone last night at a town hall meeting say to me, you know, in other towns, they've asked for a levy and then they just used it on whatever they've wanted to. And so will that happen here? Because, you know, we're not going to just give you more money to do whatever you want with. And that's interesting. Every time I hear new perceptions that I didn't expect to hear before, I hadn't heard that before. In Sherwood, that is not our commitment. So while in other towns and wherever you go after a levy, that is something that you are allowed to do. You actually can spend that levy money on pretty much whatever you would like. But the commitment in our town is that we are going to spend it on those employees that otherwise would be laid off. That is all we are planning on spending that on. And so I just want to make that clear to people that are listening and may also have that same question. Because I would say, like you, it's not too hard to have a very reasonable conversation with people if you have them in front of you. But a lot of people have misconceptions, and they're not necessarily the same people who are choosing to come to a meeting or get on our website. So it's really hard to seek those people out. And so I do feel like we sound like a broken record, and we probably will be very redundant for the next 28 days because we are just trying to continuously reach people at different times and in different places and hope that they are getting the correct information.
Yeah, and that is a great point. I do want to say, so I'm an elected official right now. I started as a citizen, though, on the bond oversight committee, and I'm just going to add my testimonial. I was always blown away at the detail and the care that was taken, literally down to the dollar on certain things. And the school board members not the board members, the school administration members that were on the bond oversight committee were helping to show us how they were getting extra money from grants or matching funds, or like I was going in expecting to be a hawk and watch every penny and there's going to be $600 toilets and stuff like that, and I'm going to shut it down. And I was blown away by how careful they were with their money. In fact, I'll say they were more careful with that bond money than I am with my personal money. I mean, they knew where every single penny was going, and it was for exactly what was promised in the bond. And so as a citizen, I really have a testimonial that is how this district operates on when they make these kind of commitments. So thanks.
Thank you for that, Taylor, and thank you so much for serving on that committee and helping make sure that the bond delivered not only financially on budget, ahead of schedule, and that we also kept all of our promises. But we were very grateful for the oversight. And so for those that have not heard us say it before, the plan is to have our budget committee, which sits together with the board, meet consistently, review all of those expenditures, keep them in a separate account so that they are reviewable. And I'm grateful that we have members of our budget committee in the audience tonight, continuing to keep an eye on what we're doing here. And I welcome the transparency, welcome the accountability, because that's absolutely what we should be doing with public dollars. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to add that I was super happy council was able to come together. I knew it would happen, wasn't a surprise, and support the levy through the resolution. When I have my mayor hat on, still transitioning. Yeah, I got promoted. When I have that hat on, and when I look at our community, it all comes back to the schools. I think in the last meeting, I talked about the three-legged stool, right? Schools, public safety, and a livable community. We need all three of those to make sure we're great. But so much of the sense of community that we have comes back to our schools. When I think about the just amazing volunteers that we have in our community and the amazing organizations like the BPA and the Booster Clubs and Sherwood Foundation for the Arts, it all comes back in my mind to our schools and the importance that our community puts into them the fact that we have the highest ratio of school age kids per household in the state, I think really drives that. So it's incredibly important. And it's also important, as we've talked a lot about from an economic development point of view. But I want to make a couple more points about that because, you know, there's some technical reasons that we want more jobs, more traded sector jobs in Sherwood, because those types, when we talk about property taxes, commercial and industrial properties, it costs us a lot less to service those on a per dollar basis than it does residential. So it actually brings balance to our tax base. So we don't have to go out in the future and ask our citizens for additional dollars, you know, to help fund streets and sewer and stormwater and kind of all those basic services that the city offers. But in addition to that, it helps us attract companies, helps us bring them into the community. One of the other reasons we haven't mentioned that we want those jobs here is we only have 700 people, according to the census, that live and work in Sherwood. Think about that. We have 22,000 people now, last time I checked. 700 live and work in Sherwood. We have 9,000 people that leave our community every day to go work somewhere else. So, and that just contributes to traffic congestion. So long-term, it would be great for people to be able to live and work here. And so that's part of our goal too, you know, as we look at the economic development equation. So our schools are critical to that plan. So personally, anything I can do to support this and help you guys get it passed, I'm there. So thank you.
Yeah, we are incredibly grateful. I mean, I didn't expect necessarily to have that partnership with you guys. That's never something we expect. And I know that we are so incredibly grateful. And, you know, to have all these people in this room that even just understand what we're trying to accomplish and that are capable of having those conversations and helping people understand the information, it's so incredibly helpful because we can't do it by ourselves and it's complicated and it's hard for us. It was hard for us, not anymore, but it was hard for us to get to all these little pieces and understand why we needed this. And so it does take all these bodies to go out and have those conversations. And we are super grateful for that. So thank you. Okay, well, now we will discuss the Youth Advisory Committee update. It looks like it's back to Dr. Lyon and Keith.
Well, one of our council goals is to consider youth advisory, and I meet with Dr. Lyon on a monthly basis and said, hey, would you be interested in a partnership? And he immediately said yes. And I guess I'll say on a personal note, I really feel like I'm sitting here because when I was in high school, I had an opportunity to get immersed in local government and see what it was all about. I think Mayor Rosner was in a similar program. And I look back in my youth and say, you know, that was a turning point in my life. And so, you know, we had talked about it. He said, absolutely, I'm in, and let's figure out a way that we can come together and do this. And so just kind of excited to talk about something where we see an opportunity to allow our youth to be engaged and involved, to partner with the school district and the city and in a joint program where we can hopefully provide a voice for them, provide opportunities for them to understand what their local government is and what we do, and to partner together so that way we can start to give a voice to the next generation of leaders in the community. And so we've been working on a draft of what this program can look like with the goal of trying to get something set together for the next school year to do that. So I know I'm personally excited about this. I'm excited to be engaged and involved and you as well. So I'll let you.
It's a great thing to envision a student advisory group that represents an opportunity to provide voice and to learn from the city and the school district. So we just jumped on that because there's been a superintendent student advisory committee here in the past. And during COVID, it kind of fell dormant and then it was not activated this year. So what we envision, you know, we've seen a number of these, but the draft is that we would pick. So it's a kind of a cohort model. You pick 4 students nominated by counselors and administrators at the high school, 4 9th grade, 4 10, 4 11th graders, and 4 seniors. And the 4 freshmen, it's a cohort, so they continue all the way through. So if they're selected as freshmen and they want to continue, they go all the way through to their senior year. And you really then get to know these kids and you see them progress but it is very much a two-way benefit because we have an opportunity and the city will have an opportunity to directly hear about current issues, understand about whether it's mental health or road safety or, the school violence issues, whatever it is, you have a direct voice that can give you a very, very critically needed perspective. So, I envision probably 4 meetings a year. What really works well is you feed them. Yeah. So it's built kind of around a lunch. And you typically provide transportation. And whether we go to city council or here, or sometimes meet at the high school, we can just have this rotation where and we can do the agendas any which way we want to. 2 in the fall, 2 in the spring, I think it'd be great. We have a student who is a representative on the school board, and that position is not necessarily connected to this student group, but they would certainly have an opportunity if they were interested. But the nomination process by the counselors and the administrators is by design, not necessarily to take your greatest, high achievers, but a little bit of a cross section. We want a little bit of perspective of not the student that's involved in everything already, but some of those other voices that kind of give us some things to think about, and it helps them. It helps them tremendously to be involved. So the impact of this can be great. I'm excited about it. And, it took us a while to get up in motion, but I think this fall, getting that in place at the high school and getting that process going will be easy and it'll be really fun.
Has there been any consideration of inviting the middle school kids? I asked that question twofold. One, going back to what Keith mentioned about how it helped him and where he's at today. I was an Indiana Girls State recipient, and that was my first introduction. And then in high school, and that was as a middle schooler. And then as a high schooler, I was the 4th district congressional candidate. So I was in DC for 2 weeks. Those kind of things are invaluable, specifically for the middle school students. The other reason why I suggest maybe thinking that way is in meeting with the high school leadership class. I was able to speak to them last week, and I pitched the idea of a youth advisory council. And they even said that they thought that it would be a good idea to encourage our middle schoolers. So just throwing that concept out to you.
All right, we will reluctantly consider middle schoolers. We love middle schoolers. We will consider that.
Middle school kids might be my favorite group of kids. And I think that sounds incredible. If you ever want to hear the truth about what people really think or some honest opinions, you ask a student and they will let you know. So I think that's incredible. I hope I get to be invited to all 4 of those. Not just one, but all 4 of those. That sounds awesome. I'm really excited for our students to have that opportunity. And I'll handle the middle schoolers if you want. Okay, that's my commitment. That's my commitment to you.
Can I add something real quick?
Yes, you
Yeah,
certainly can.
So I got the opportunity this morning to speak to Katie, what's her last name? Rarick, yes. The class this morning, and we talked a little bit about this idea too, and they asked me all kinds of detailed questions. I said, well, I might know a little bit more tonight. I encourage you to watch this work session. But they were asking, how do I sign up? How do I get involved with this? Which was great to see. They ask incredible questions, but I wanted to throw out some other ideas too. Usually once a year, the mayor, and I think next year we might try to take some additional counselors. The National League of Cities has a city summit in Washington, DC every year. And mayors and councilors from across the country come to that. It's a chance for us to lobby for bridge money or crossing money and stuff like that. But they actually run a parallel track. And they have a youth delegation, and Tiger, Tualatin, Lake Oswego, and Hillsborough all had kids there from their communities, like 6 or 7 kids. And I'm not going to name the company. That might be until I have a chance to talk to them. But there's a local company that sponsors those kids across all those cities to go to that event. And, but I think it'd be wonderful. And it's a big event. I mean, John Podesta was a speaker, Dr. Biden, was a keynote speaker. So they get a chance to, you know, see people that they're seeing in the national news and all that, but it's still about cities. They get a chance to meet their local delegation, senators, Senator Wyden and Merkley and Congresswoman Salinas and others. So it's a great opportunity, and we might have a partner in the community that would help get those kids there that we can incorporate into that program as well. So I think there's all kinds of fun stuff that we can do to and give kids a perspective of what it's like to serve in government that's not what they see in the media today. You know, because what we see in the media today is just frankly not cool. And there's a whole other side to that of service. It's invaluable. So it'd be great to get kids exposed to that. So can't wait to see what you guys come up with.
I was just gonna say, and the council knows, like, I was probably one of the one that was most hesitant about this youth advisory committee as a council before we talked about this partnership, just because another board or commission for the city means more staff has to attend more meetings. I mean, trying to be cognizant, but once I've heard your idea of about it jointly and then 4 meetings a year sounds completely manageable. And my concern also was, well, the school district already does such great youth in government and ASB, and I didn't want to duplicate, even though it's different because we want to be talking about cities. So this is encouraging. I'm really looking forward to that as the city council liaison to the school district and working with it. And yeah.
I'm also going to put in one plug for, I feel like in addition, like the things that we could put them in charge of or get them excited about, you know, we're looking for ways to reach out to people on social media. We're looking for help with tech support on our city calls. And by the way, it's very sophisticated equipment that it's one of those things where, you know, learning how to do educational videos and hey, this is what, you know, I've seen some of the content creation that has been done over the levy. And I know some students that have been doing some of that. And I said, these are the kinds of things that I don't have in our budget, in our city budget, to be able to do, but are professional skills that can be taught and can be taught in even curriculum to help us as a community and a city. And you get some of those students that are, you know, maybe they're not involved in everything, but they're really into video production, or they're really into app development or different things like that. And so I really would just encourage looking, you know, as a city, I've already got a list of things that I said, hey, let's throw these things over and see if those are things that the kids would be engaged in. So.
I'm sorry, the other thing that Keith and I talked about today that was maybe a part of your conversation was a youth academy on the off season. So if you did a school from September to the end of the school year, and then you had an academy in the summertime, I'm all in on that. So if you want help planning, let me know.
I think you're on tape volunteering for that, just so you know.
This program has just become really robust. I'm very excited about it. But please go ahead.
So kind of on a related note, at a city council meeting upcoming, I don't have an exact date, we're gonna have a kid night. I should call it young adult / kid night. I kept correcting myself this morning with our high school students, but not only we're gonna be celebrating our youth governor, Kylie Johnson, and getting her certificate and some appreciation from the city. I also ran a If I Were a Mayor essay contest, which is actually sponsored by the Oregon Mayors Association. So we have 2 local winners for that. So we'll be celebrating them. One is did just a great poster at the grade school level, and a middle school person will be celebrating that. And then both of those individuals get entered into the statewide competition. And if they win that, they get to go to the Oregon Mayors Association conference in Hood River and enjoy that this summer. So all for getting
Let's win that one too.
I know.
It's just
We need the trifecta, yes.
And when is that going to be?
The kid night?
Yeah.
So, you know, I need to work that out.
Oh,
So,
TBD.
yes, TBD.
Okay.
But it'll probably be within the next couple months here.
Okay. Well, I know you guys will share it with us and then we can obviously help share that as well.
Yep.
That's very cool. Awesome. All right. Well, we are moving on now to safe routes to school, and it's back to you, Mr. Roser.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
In talking with Abby about the agenda, I thought this would be a great item for us to talk about a little bit. The Safe Routes to School program is a program run by the state, and it makes grant money available to school districts to improve safety as kids are trying to get to our schools. And so we asked Eric Rutledge to come in from the city and talk to us a little bit about that program. This is a presentation that I think we did in a joint session years and years and years ago, but we have tons of new faces, and we thought it'd be worthwhile to see, for everyone to see what this program is about. But at the bottom line is, if we can work together on this, we can bring more money to Sherwood, and that's kind of the key thing for me. Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, good evening, Chair Hawkins, Mayor Rosener. Usually I greet the mayor first, but we're in the school district's house tonight, so greet the chair first. City councilors and board directors, good to be with you. My name is Eric Rutledge, Community Development Director with the city. Happy to give this presentation on safe routes to school. Just give a brief introduction to what it is and what some opportunities might be. I'm going to see if I can get the clicker to work here. Do I need to turn this on? Go ahead. There you go. So just really briefly, the city council is aligned with Safe Routes to School, just showing here some of the council pillars, what we call them, and then the goals for the next fiscal year, 23-24. A lot of different areas where we're focused on pedestrian safety, walkability, trails, and just overall connectivity within the city. So first in infrastructure, building pedestrian connections between Sherwood East and West. That is mainly Highway 99 that runs through the city. Obviously, the big project that, like we mentioned earlier, the pedestrian bridge between the Y and the high school. Livability and workability, promoting trails and walkability citywide, and then public safety, first collaborating with the school district wherever we can on public safety, promoting bike and pedestrian safety. And then we do have a specific deliverable, which is to work with the school district on the Safe Routes to School program. Next slide. So just really briefly, and I'm sure all of you might know what this is, but what is Safe Routes to School? It's a program that aims to make it safer for students to walk and bike to school, assuming that the infrastructure is there and that it is safe. Sorry, if it's not, if the infrastructure is not there, make it safer through that infrastructure and other efforts. And if it is, actually encourage more walking and biking, again, where safety is not a barrier. And then the who is would be a partnership between the city, the school district, and then parent volunteers are also going to be really important to this potential program. And the benefits, of course, safer streets in and around the school, less traffic congestion during the rush hours and during the morning and afternoon pickup times, and then a stronger sense of community. That's if you're having groups of students or students and parents walking together as opposed to driving, in individual vehicles. And then, of course, the physical activity that children and adults would get walking or biking to school. Next slide. And digging into some of the details and sort of the overview of the program, there's 6 E's, engineering, which would be the infrastructure around the school, bike lanes, crosswalks, flashing beacons, whatever it might be, the actual physical improvements. There's enforcement, that'd be by our local law enforcement to actually enforce the local traffic laws, encouragement to encourage and inspire students and parents to walk and bike to school, education, just creating awareness about the potential benefits of walking and biking, evaluation, which would be identifying potential needs and then also measuring success if you do actually get a program going. And then equity, which is understanding that different students are coming from different backgrounds and might have different challenges in terms of, even getting to school, whether or not they have the opportunity to travel in a vehicle or bus, or if they are required to actually walk or bike to school. Next slide. And just a few more details on the actual program, break it up into kind of two categories, infrastructure and non-infrastructure. Obviously, infrastructure would be the physical changes to the physical environment. So example on the left there is at the Ridges Elementary School, example of what we call a bulb out, where the sidewalk gets extended into the travel lane a little bit and shortens the crosswalk width. Just a really sort of basic example of a physical improvement that you can do in front of a school to make it safer to cross the street. And then non-infrastructure, just the education and encouragement. So that the photo on the right is an example from Archer Glen in 2019. The school district and the city partnered on the walk and bike to school day. It's one of our former counselors there engaging with one of the students. Next slide. And the city has done some analysis. This is from 2020, but this is a map that shows some of our what we call CIP, capital improvement plan. So, the city has a 5-year plan for bike improvements, pedestrian improvements, vehicle improvements. And this was some analysis that was done to look at our own CIP and the city's own efforts and sort of overlay that. You can't see the overlay, but overlay that with the walk sheds for the school and start to prioritize projects that both were on our CIP and also were in the school walk shed. And so the example on that top right would be where Meineke and Washington Street come together, right by the park where Cedar Creek runs. And that kind of floated to the top because it's really, it's on our CIP list, but it's also close to the new middle school and close to Hawksview Elementary and also the school district. So just an example of where, you could have win-wins is what we'd call it. The city's already planning some type of improvement, and it's also within, the school walk shed, and would be a sort of a win-win for both parties. Next slide. And of course, the funding is important. This depending on what the focus of the program is, infrastructure, non-infrastructure. Obviously, infrastructure is going to be more expensive than just your education and encouragement. But there is funding available, and that could be it could even be a way to get funding into the community that we wouldn't otherwise qualify for if we didn't have a Safe Routes to School program. So ODOT is one of the big funders. They have competitive grants. That's really where the big funding comes in for infrastructure. They have rapid response grants where, there's a urgent safety issue. They'll respond with grants in that way. And then there's also project identification grants, which would be planning grants, and would likely be based on the region. ODOT has different regions. We're in region 1. And so it'd be a competitive grant process within our region 1. Next slide. And there's also other funding sources. Washington County has funding source what we call MISTIP, capital improvement projects. There are regional funds from Metro, community development block grants from the federal government, and then also TGM grants, which are also from ODOT and the federal government. So this program would likely, cost some money, especially if you're getting into infrastructure, but there is funding available for it. Next slide. And so the next steps, if the policymakers, of both parties were on board, I think the next step would be for city and school district staff to meet and discuss opportunities, constraints, next steps. I think we do want to be mindful of, staff staff levels on both sides and, the ability to actually get this up and running. It's likely that you would start with one school. It doesn't need to be district wide. If you had a school that was just a really good candidate, there's appetite from that principal and from that school, you could start on a one school basis. And if we were to actually move forward, if both parties were on board, the next formal step would be a MOU between the city and the school district. So next slide, and that should wrap up the presentation. Happy to take any questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eric. That was a great presentation. And I just want to add a couple things before we open it up for discussion. Eric mentioned the MISTIP funding opportunities from the county. That's actually funded by property taxes that everyone pays. So to answer your question on where some of your property taxes go, that's part of it. But in that process, we are working with our neighbors because they divvy those funds up by commissioner district with the county. And we're in Roy Rogers district. So we're working on getting us, it's not a done deal yet, but we're getting $7 million to do improvements to E Road, which is really important. There's some other activity going on. We're after the tragic accident on E Road last year, the city very quickly took a look at the speeds and how fast the traffic's moving through there. We also did a study on Elwert Road, and we have our application into the state right now to get speed limits lowered on both of those roads. So even outside of this program, there's a lot of activity going on to try to improve the safety for our kids around the community. So any questions for Eric?
Yeah, I have a question. I mean, I'm encouraged to hear that. I know there's a lot of community members who will be very grateful. I don't live over on that side of 99, but you hear constant complaints and concerns about kids walking out there and any pedestrian really walking out there and the speeds. You were talking towards the end of your presentation, though, about if we had a school that wanted to get involved. What does that look like for a school to want to get involved?
Yeah, I think you need buy-in from the principal for sure. I think we'd want to start with an MOU likely between the school district and the city to make sure the school district is on board, that you guys are on board. And then we would start with likely start with the principal. Make sure they're on board, staffing levels at that school, make sure that the effort that's going to be required, can actually be, accommodated given the staff levels and workload. Parent volunteers are also going to be important. Usually you have like a parent volunteer champion that's also helping to coordinate and do communication or outreach. And then you could start with, likely you'd start with, education and outreach is always the low hanging fruit, right? You could develop an action plan is usually a sort of a initial step as well. So I think, depending on how much interest there is, you can do more or less. I think that's the nice thing about this program is if that individual school has a whole lot of appetite, you could develop an action plan, to match that. If there's less, you can develop an action plan that's a little bit scaled back.
But what is the specific staffing requirements for that?
Yeah, so we would be doing events likely, and so there'd be teachers. If you saw some of the photos, bike and roll or walk and roll to school day, there's tables set up. So city staff would have sent a staff member there to help coordinate and set up. You likely need some additional support from staff at the school district level to help coordinate events. If you're doing planning and infrastructure, it would be staff time for meetings to identify needs. So, the teachers and parents likely know around the school where there are issues. The city staff could also serve as a resource there, but where are the issues with walking and biking to school in terms of safety? And so meetings likely from the staff to be able to identify those needs, potentially apply for grants, that type of thing.
Okay. That's so encouraging. I would love to see more of this conversation happening. Of course, the timing of it is it's hard, right? I mean, I sit in my mind and think like, where would we ever find more staffing to deal with this unless we're able to maintain where we're at now? I mean, So hopefully come May, we'll be able to have a little bit more of a conversation surrounding this. I think it's an amazing opportunity to bring to our students. I see kids walking all over the place in this town, even when it's dumping with rain. And very often they don't look like they're in the safest route possible to be getting to school, but that's just kind of the route they're having to take. So I think it's a huge priority for our town to work towards these goals. Thank you.
Would this program like fit the need for like improved signage at schools to kind of delineate the walk, the bike, the car traffic? Is that within the scope of this or a little
Are you talking on the campus?
on the
Or
campus
near campus?
at the high school?
You know, I'm not sure. We can look into that though. But you know, obviously, yeah, it's not just getting to the school. It's once you're on the campus as well, that needs to be
Right.
safe as well. So yeah,
Right.
I don't know the answer to that
Yeah,
directly, but we
Yeah,
can look
so
into
it
it.
kind of feels like a one-off kind of thing. but-
Sure.
but
Yeah.
Maybe,
Mhm.
yeah, thank
I was thinking along the same lines as you, Abby. It's a great opportunity, but the timing is not necessarily right. But then as somebody who looks for opportunities, I'm thinking, well, is there an opportunity to create a volunteer coalition that could help make it happen and rise it to the top? So just kind of thinking outside the box.
No, I appreciate that. I'd love to see it happen one way or another. It'd be nice to have this conversation in a month and kind of know where we're working.
Yeah,
Dr.
we
Adamson.
want to be very mindful of capacity on both sides. Yeah.
And we absolutely appreciate that. I just want to highlight that this is one of those opportunities where we could really be in a competitive position with a partnership to bring our dollars back to Sherwood. There are federal dollars engaged with this. There are state dollars. There's already talk of a transportation package in 2025 through the Oregon legislature, of which this program is a very popular component. So the ability to work together to the extent that we can figure out an appropriate model given everyone's resources, I think is a good opportunity for us to work in partnership again to bring Sherwood dollars home.
Yeah, to that end, I think when I first got on council and we were talking about this program at that point in time, I think the year, I don't remember the exact year, might have been 18, 19, somewhere in that range, like not all the money allocated to this program even got spent, right? Like there was unspent money available that a city like Sherwood or anyone could have gotten had they just done the work to apply for the grant, right? So I think it's one of those things like, yeah, there's no perfect timing, but also if you do that groundwork, as we talk about with other projects, right, to be grant ready, then you can strike when those opportunities are ready, right? And there's gaps in sidewalks or bridges or pedestrian crossings or lights or whatever the engineering mechanisms are needed. If you're ready to go get it, then you can have a chance at it. But if we don't do the work to be ready, we'll be having the same conversation in a few years and we won't have made any progress. So, but hopefully after May.
And just throw another idea out there would be an idea for the Youth Advisory Council or committee that gets formed to be a part of that safe routes to schools as well.
Like, for example, we've heard an awful lot about people wishing there were, I mean, we've got right outside of this building, which is no longer quite as necessary, given that we don't have kids walking in here every day, but we have stoplights and crossing lights, and that doesn't exist for each of our schools, especially our elementaries where they would be particularly effective. And so looking at, what do we need to do to put together a planning grant or to be ready to, ask for whatever the amount is to be able to do that. I just, again, the sense that I'm hearing from our community right now is we want our dollars at home. And if we can do that together, I think that's a win-win.
I know Archer Glen really well because that's where my kids went. There was a pack there. Is this something that we could have a discussion with them to say, hey, are there, again, to Eric's point, they probably know the safety problems in that neighborhood the best. And so frankly, getting a list from them, and I am sure that there's some that are excellent writers or can help put that into a, so that might be another source of somebody, because frankly, if you just threw it out to them and say, who's passionate about their kids, safety and getting these things in, we might be surprised at people who, don't get excited about a levy, but kid safety, they're excited about. So I don't know.
I don't know what you're talking about, not excited about letting. I take personal offense to that. No, all of our buildings do have very good packs and PSOs, and I certainly think at the elementary level, you'd get that response. Sometimes I don't know, like at the high school level, if parents are still super in tune with what all those dangers are to their kids, right? Like a lot of kids get themselves to school by the time they're in high school, and I definitely think we want feedback from those students as well, just to find out what that's like for them. And at the middle school level, I see so many kids walking to the middle school that are far beyond, they certainly could be getting on the bus, but they're walking. And so I think we'd want student feedback for sure. But I think we have amazing volunteers in our community. We always have, and I'm sure they would rise to the occasion. And I would hate to see us not take advantage of this opportunity, regardless of whatever happens in May. But we just need to get more information about what all might be involved from the school district side of things. But I think, I don't want to speak for everybody else, but I'm sure that would be a partnership we would want to work on.
Yeah, and my goal for tonight was just to get the conversation
Yeah.
started. We know it's a timing issue and there's staffing issues on both sides. I couldn't agree more with the sentiment of bringing Sherwood money back and maybe a little bit more, back to our community, because we send a lot of tax dollars outside this community. And I just wanted to add too, as we're moving forward and talking about this thing, if you see issues popping up, I know last year we had an issue with people going too fast on Sunset and almost hitting some of our crossing guards when Middleton was getting out. In that particular situation, we put the speed trailer out there. I think Chief Hanlon had some extra patrols going out there and watching that. So there's some education that we can do for the community when we have those spot problems pop up in lieu of a new crossing lights or something like that. So reach out to us if you see those spot problems popping up.
I always appreciate seeing the extra patrols in the morning during drop off. They're parked, we're at Archer Glen too, and so they're parked right across the street in that little neighborhood, and man, everyone straightens up their behavior every time they're there, I'll tell you that. Yeah, so especially when you can't turn left out of the driveway from this time to this time. Man, and then when you find someone who does, it's the ultimate sin.
Just one more thing I want to add especially because this is a question I've gotten from the community a lot, but the placement of the school zone signs at the high school doesn't seem to make sense. And so I know staff is having a conversation with the county, because that's really a county thing, to look at, can we get both sides of the roads, get those signs extended beyond that traffic light? Because just having the school zone at the traffic circle doesn't make sense for our kids. So.
All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate the presentation. All right. And next up, we're going to have an SRO update from our mayor.
Chief,
Oh, just kidding.
I'm gonna immediately kick the Chief Hanlon.
Please do.
I did go through the training. I'm a little disappointed I don't have a red light. Let alone a red and blue light would have been super cool. Good evening, Chair and Mayor and Board, School Board, City Councilors, Superintendent, City Manager. I think I got y'all. Just wanted to touch base real quick on our SRO program. I don't have a slideshow, but obviously it's an incredibly important position within our community, actually in every community. And I know in the last few years, it's been under fire as to its relevancy and its impact. And I think that we have done a great job in our partnership with the school district and getting the right people in play. And I think it speaks volumes for what our SRO has done in the last year. I think he's had a great impact, considering the fact that he's one SRO and a school district of this size is a pretty big lift. And so I give him lots of praise and kudos for the things he's doing. And in particular, the SRO corner, I think that was his brainchild to bring that to life and to have a way to communicate with parents and students alike so that everybody's kind of on the same page as far as issues and concerns that are out there, because obviously we know, I don't have my phone with me at the moment, but technology is what drives a lot of the concerns that we're facing as in law enforcement with students and some of the, shouldn't say trouble, but just some of the issues that arise for them. So I pulled some stats as I was actually pulled it a couple weeks ago for another thing, but last year, just to kind of put things in perspective, we responded, excuse me, we responded to the high school 113 times. And that's 911 non-emergency calls regarding something that's occurring at the school. And yeah, and then 529 times for self-initiated. So that's a total of 642 calls. Now, those self-initiated are not just specifically going to be related during the daytime. We do a lot of nighttime patrols. We know we have some speeding issues at the high school during the evening. We're showing up at events. So and when an officer goes out and is in, or traffic, we know that traffic at the high school can get a little troublesome trying to get in or get out. So these numbers are pretty high, but they also, it's our commitment to be there and to be involved and interacting within the students and the staff. And the staff has been great. It's been nothing but a great two-way conduit for us as far as issues arise, things that come up. We hear about it, we work on a resolution, and I'm excited for where we're going. Another stat that I had was just the middle school. I know in the middle school and the elementary schools have not gotten the attention that I've heard repeatedly, you know, that they desire. But just in 2022, we had 45 calls for service at the middle school and 156 self-initiated calls. So about a third, 201 times we were out at the middle school. Again, I'm telling you these numbers because we have one SRO, and then our patrol levels, our patrol officers are the ones that are filling in the gaps. They're the ones that are stopping in there. They're the ones that are having the interactions. And so although we rely heavily on our SRO, this is a total team effort on the police officer or on the police department's side. I don't think you've probably met an officer out here that is not interactive and engaged when they have the opportunity with the students. We talked about some different ways to show up at the elementary schools and the middle schools a little bit more often. And we have sergeants and we have people that are stepping up and doing that. So that's a testament to this relationship because it's really important. You guys have been great in finding rooms for them to even come in and write reports and keys to get to where they need to. And so I think the future is bright on that end. But the other thing that I wanted to touch on before I forget is the speed enforcement component, because that's probably our number one concern in the mornings and in the afternoons, speed and distracted driving. And we know it. And you see the kids walking everywhere all day long. And so our town is unique and it's small. And so the trailers are great, but they're kind of hard to get out there. And obviously we can't be everywhere. I just got back from a conference where they've come up with some new technology. I shouldn't say new, but it's new to me. And that, well, you have this flashing signs right now, little 25, basically they're mobile. So I'm looking in, so I could take a sign and put it on this post today with solar and get all sorts of data and make it blink and tell you that you're speeding. To your point, you know, when people see either these signs or they see a police car, they check their driving behavior, and we can move those around. So I think it'll be another added tool to kind of be where we're not as far as an educational component for the schools. And then just probably the biggest thing I know that is on a lot of people's minds is fentanyl and what we're doing about it. And it's as scary as any of them out there right now. Back in late 90s, it was meth. Early 2000s was really the drug. And obviously fentanyl's taken over. And we're unfortunately chasing our tail because it's so prevalent. And it's here, it's in our communities. And we're doing our best to chase those down, especially those people obviously that are supplying it to our students. But that coupled with you know, the heroin and obviously the pill crushing is still something that's pretty prevalent within students and the usage of drugs. But aside from that, that's really all I had for an update on the SRO side. I'm happy to take any questions. I see a red light. No, you.
I heard or read a news story about one of the ways that dealers are dealing fentanyl and spreading them out through communities is actually riding public transit and dealing that way. So they ride public transit from their little hub downtown or wherever they are. Sorry, downtown. And coming into the community and then hopping back on the bus. And a lot of times there's kids and youth on the city buses. Is that, have you heard that happening here locally?
Yeah, public transit is a great way for it to occur. I mean, they can be in and out and make those transactions. The other thing that where they do it a lot is public libraries. They go and place it someplace and then they send the message to
Because kids are their target.
go
Right.
and
Yeah.
pull it from the shelves. So definitely being creative out there.
Okay.
And I'm sure we don't know half of what they do. It's just until we stumble across it.
So is that type of education being filtered down then to, let's say, the city librarian or the staff there or the TriMet drivers? I mean, I know that you wouldn't know with the TriMet drivers, but like that type of information, is it getting filtered down through the proper channels so that the awareness is raised?
I think so. And, it's probably something that we can circle back around on. Like I said, it seems like every day we're learning something new and a new way. But yeah, the public sector is definitely an important tool and to message that. So I
Okay.
will follow up on that.
And then one more question. I heard I don't know if this is in development or if it already exists. And if it already exists, then I feel naive for asking, but about an app that parents can install on a phone, on their child's phone, where they can, it can be activated. It's like makes the phone immobile if it senses it's in motion. Have you heard of that? Or maybe it doesn't exist yet, and I really just heard it briefly, and I thought, oh, I gotta look more into that, but it was just recently, and I haven't had a chance to.
So I guess, so I better
It's
understand
an
what's the
app
purpose
that
of it?
is for targeted distracted driving. And
Okay,
so it actually immobilizes the phone from working if the phone is in motion.
I can't personally say I've heard of it,
Okay,
but it
I'll
does.
have to look more back into it because I did hear about it and that sounds like pretty cool technology. So. Have you heard about that?
I haven't heard about it. How did not know you're a passenger?
Because you enable it and disable it.
Oh,
So-
so you trust your
So like,
driver to
so like,
enable
for
it.
example, like I have Life 360 on my kid's phone. So like
I do too, yeah.
it would probably, I have to look more into it. I just thought that maybe it was more available than maybe what it was, but it would probably be something that would be a function in something like that, where your kid's driving. So you could actually enable it and disable it,
Yeah.
which I would totally do. Text me when you're there and I'll disable your phone.
Is it something, are you talking about something that the parent controls?
Yeah, it's a parent control for when their kids are, it's a distracted driving tool.
My daughter,
Did you hear about it?
well, my daughter has one where if somebody tries to call her or text her while she's driving, we get an automatic text back. She's in
Right.
motion. She
Yeah.
can't receive anything.
That's just a setting though on your phone.
Yeah,
But that wasn't that, yes, that's.
okay.
Setting.
I'll have
I don't know if it's- yeah.
to look more into that because I just briefly heard about it and I thought maybe by chance it was something that maybe law
Yeah.
enforcement would have heard about. Because it's such a problem, right? So it seems that would be a possible, like a good
Well,
thing.
I just want to say as a parent, how incredibly grateful I am for you guys. I know that every city is stretched so thin with their police force. And I agree. I mean, when I drive to the middle school, I often see a car sitting there at the church watching the crosswalk. And I try not to be distracted, but I'll tell you what, kids come out of every little corner to cross that crosswalk and they stop for a split second before they cross it. And so I appreciate that you guys are sitting there watching, and I've seen how fast you guys respond, especially being on this end. I've seen how fast you guys respond to our school district. And in this day and age, when parents are terrified in some circumstances about the response that their schools might receive and the safety measures, I feel really, really good. I don't feel good those numbers are so high. That's a lot of work for you guys, but I feel really good knowing that you guys are responding so quickly to our school district when we call. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. And one thing I want to acknowledge and thank you again is, although you know, we live in a day and age of obviously these threats and the fact that we have to train like this and the opportunity to go into the schools and do it. So thank you. I mean, it's because I know it's a burden on your staff and allowing us to be in there after hours and trying to coordinate without students. But it's really important for us to better understand how to respond and especially a high school of that size, and just what that entails, just regardless, even to a medical emergency, just getting there and getting through it is critical for us. Because typically, and TVFNR will acknowledge this, that, you know, we usually beat them to these kind of calls for medical responses. So it's very appreciated.
Real quick question. So I know you mentioned earlier we have one SRO. I know in the city budget a couple of years back, we funded a second SRO, and I know there was a number of reasons why, but it doesn't matter now why that didn't get filled, but you know, maybe a question more for staff or, you know, the council even, but did that funding just go away? Is that something we can resurrect? Can we bring that back? I don't remember exactly why we didn't end up filling the SRO position, so maybe you can fill us in a little bit on the backstory there, because I know we funded it, so.
What are you looking at?
Oh, me?
Give you a line on. She's wondering if
Oh.
you can answer that question.
So, it was a different time, different administration, and I think, you know, we had funded that in anticipation that we could partner on the second SRO, which didn't work out. There's no point in rehashing the past on that. But, you know, there's always an opportunity to move over. I think on ours, there's no sides here, but for most of us on council, and at least once I've talked to you directly about it, we're very supportive if we can figure out how to do this, but bringing more SROs to our schools. I think the middle school needs a lot more attention, as Chief Hanlon pointed out. And I also want to add, you know, a lot of calls, a lot of self-initiated calls, a lot of non-emergency line and 911 calls. I just want to remind folks, it's not all about the calls. You know, it's about the relationship that our SROs build with the students, and have the students having not a perception, but see the reality that the police are there to help them. And they're not just writing tickets, right? That they can give them a lot of guidance and a lot of help, and they can be a mentor in some cases. And I just have to compliment you, Chief Hanlon, and your staff, and especially Officer Wolfer. When I was talking to kids this morning, young adults this morning, we were talking about the agenda tonight, and I brought up the SROs and a few questions on that, not a lot, but I asked them, I said, do you guys know Officer Wolfer? What do you think? And it was a lot of smiles and thumbs ups from the kids. So to me, it was very apparent that they really appreciate him and the work he does there. So I think that's huge. Not all parts of this country do their SRO programs like this. But that partnership, working with the kids instead of against the kids, I think is critical. And James Wolfer does an amazing job, as far as I'm concerned.
Just to add a personal touch to that, I can speak to that from a very personal perspective with my children. When they were in high school a number of years ago, you know, she was in trouble, and some of her friends reached out to the SRO, who reached out to us, and the same thing happened with another child of mine in middle school. And I got a call from the SRO, and he came to our house. And I don't want to think about what might have happened had that relationship not been there. You know, that people felt like they could go to the SRO and ask, like, what do we do? My friend's in trouble. What do I do? You know, and that's just incredibly powerful and personal.
Thank you for that. And to piggyback on you, Mayor, one of the things, and it's been really important, and if you haven't heard me say it, a relationship building is the number one, it's the highest rung on the ladder for us within that position. Enforcement is just, I mean, it's way down on the bottom. I understand that it does come into play when necessary, but we're about being relational and being a conduit to the community. And we want people to be able to recognize the uniform and know that we're going to be a safe place for them. And I could tell you story after story where having the SRO available and being able to reach out to them, made a difference in people's lives. So I 100% support this program. And I'll touch briefly on what you brought up about the second SRO. I have some things in play that I think, can bolster the additional need or SRO down the road here. But, and I've expressed this to Dr. Line as well. It's just, it's people, it's personnel, we're kind of all in this battle right now. And law enforcement right now is really tricky for us to get somebody from the time we give them a job offer to the time that they're actually a solo police officer is upwards of 15 months. So that's a really big challenge in this state because, and this is not to blame people, but our academy is it's not robust enough to get people through. But I also have to bring people on early because I can't lose them. It's extremely competitive. Our neighbors to the east are down 600 cops. To the north, they're down 22. Out west, they're down 25. I mean, everybody is taking anybody that is willing to be a police officer and meets the standards. So definitely, I use this term a lot. It's fishing from a puddle, and whereas it used to be, pretty big pond back in the day. But
makes you feel pretty lucky that we have the one we have then, because I know my kid's in middle school, my oldest kid, and he said to me the other day, he's like, is that our SRO? He seems kind of cool. He seems like a nice guy. I was like, he is a nice guy. And in fact, I wish you had more opportunity to get to know him. And I mean, that's the downside of us really not having that coverage at the middle school, is getting those kids to kind of develop those relationships sooner. And gosh, I would love to see that. So if that were to be possible, how hard do you think it would be to find someone to do that?
I have people that do it right now.
Oh, okay.
Within,
So small puddle, we're looking
well, I have people within our department that would do it,
that would do it.
but I'd have to backfill them. And that's
Sure.
the struggle
Okay.
is I have to backfill because patrol is our number one priority.
For sure.
And so I have to backfill somebody to take their spot. And so it gets tricky.
So you may have somebody, but not ready to release for
Exactly.
that.
Yeah.
Okay. Director Adamson, I saw your light on a
Oh.
long time ago.
Sorry.
I'm happy to defer to Director Thorne and then. Okay, well then I'm happy to go. I just, just curious about, not at all to minimize the calls, but I know that one of the, and this is a happy problem for us to have, one of the issues we're starting to hear about again is the challenges of scheduling, because so much is happening at the high school all the time. And so I'm just kind of curious about, do you have a sense of kind of those calls, which ones are coming kind of after hours versus which ones are happening during the day? Is there kind of a even split of those, or is it, this is not to suggest that we don't need an additional SRO at all. I'm just really curious about what that looks like. Are we having problems in the evening, or are we having problems mostly during the day, or what's happening there?
So the calls for service are going to be driven by probably somebody in the building. So I would suspect, and I could probably extrapolate that data if I dug, but just to guess, I'm going to say it's high volume during school hours. Things are coming up and we're responding. Typically, I mean, you're going to see some of the after hours, maybe at a sporting event, something comes up. Now these calls for service also, I mean, they dovetail into medical stuff. They could be one and the same because we'll always go to those. But the self-initiated you're going to probably see a higher number in the after school hours, because we're going to be in the parking lots. We're going to be out contacting people. We're going to be dealing with the street racers, those kind of things. So at least.
I'm gonna sadly admit that I know that the band had an incident we had 7 calls in a day on a very hot October with a band competition. Thank you very much for coming out so often. That was not our finest moment. But we didn't expect 90-degree weather in October either. So thank you. I really appreciate the heavy focus on building relationships. I mean, that's what the district's about as well. And I just am really grateful for Officer Wolfer, for your whole team, and the way that that the Sherwood Police Department has just built outstanding relationships with our district. And we hope that this is another reason why we absolutely need to pass this levy, is so that we can bring additional people on, that we can hang on to our drug and alcohol counselor, because these all are interconnected for sure.
Yeah, thank you for that.
I just wanted to extend the compliment as well, with Officer Wolfer and his SRO's corner that he does on social media. I mean, that's such a game changer for parents. It's meeting parents where they're at when they ask their kids like, well, how was your day? What happened today? Fine. You know what I mean? And then you read the SRO corner and you're like, well, something happened, So it's just so nice to get an update, and not that it's necessarily happening to every student or every family, but it's a conversation starter that you can say, well, have you seen this? Have you heard this? Are you okay? Those types of conversations. So it's so appreciated. It just really is. And your guys is just the police updates, and whoever's writing those, they need an award. They're hilarious.
They've set a pretty high bar.
Yeah, it's pretty good. The community outreach, I just totally appreciate. And I think the people that compliment the blogs all the time, or, the posts of just how you're just extending yourself to the community and how you truly care. Like, it's so noticeable and it is appreciated. So
Thank you.
thank you.
I actually do mean to have it on this time, but backing up also on the SRO corner, I agree with you, because it does raise awareness for parents to bring up those conversations for things that they wouldn't otherwise know is going on within the school. And this is, it's a village of all wanting to take care of our kids and keep them safe. The SRO corner, because I know not everybody's on social media. So what are the different avenues and where that's being released?
We did have a conversation, did we not? Of trying to get it out in the
District newsletter, or
yeah, is it monthly or bi-weekly? I can't remember what it.
we have a weekly.
I know that we had a conversation about it connecting it that now. I don't know if it's in fact going out.
Christine doesn't have a mic, so
Oh,
she's joining us.
okay.
She has a lot of jobs, you guys.
So we did have some instances earlier this year where we were having Officer Wolfer submitting content into our newsletters. And he knows, we've had conversations, he has a standing invitation to submit items for our schools newsletters or our district one. We probably need to reconnect and revisit that, just with everything that's been going on lately. But parents have seen those, particularly in the secondary level, is really where a lot of those have been focused, more so than the elementary, just based on topic. We try to keep it age appropriate for the student population of the school.
Awesome. I am a huge supporter of those SRO corners going out in school newsletters. I think, age appropriate is great, but you've got fifth graders. Things are happening earlier and earlier and earlier and earlier these days. And I would love to see the SRO corner topics in our school newsletters, because you don't have a lot of people on social media. And, I know I read my school newsletter, and if I saw that there, that would I know that many other parents that are reading it would too. And it's just such valuable information. Why not extend that reach? So I'd love to see that.
Yep. Thank you.
I just want to piggyback on that in terms of what you were referring to and telling us earlier about fentanyl and how it's coming into the community. I am shocked by the library idea, because my daughter asks me to go to the library all the time and walk there. And so the idea of her finding something on a shelf or something, that's news to me. So adding those types of things with like the SRO corner in the newsletter of like, this is what we're seeing. Is it in our community actually? That's helpful too, I think.
Okay. Thanks.
I just want to add on the generic kind of communication question that you brought up in terms of how are we pushing this out in as many ways and forms that people can see it. One of our council goals is actually around improving how we communicate with the community. Not a lot of specifics to report on that yet, but that's part of it is how do we, one, make it easy for staff to push information out to the community, but also how to make it easy for the community to push information and their thoughts and opinions to us. You know, it's a lot of our people, citizens or our constituents or community members have busy lives, you know, so how do we make sure we're getting information out to them in a format that's quick and easy for them to digest and compatible with their busy lifestyles and stuff like that. So I'm hopeful as we start to fine tune that and get further in that project, we'll have some other ways that we can disseminate information. Did you want to mention anything on that, Keith?
I think you did a good job of highlighting. We do have some work in progress right now. We'll have more information coming out, but we recognize that, you know, there's an opportunity to tell our story and to figure out ways to communicate with the public. And the police department is doing such a great job. It illustrates kind of the value that can be added and the importance of that. So it's something we are focused on, and hopefully we'll see some real enhancements and improvements as we move forward.
I have 2 points, but my first is on that. I saw 3 demos this week on government software for communicating out to the people. So I'm doing some of that legwork, and there's a lot of good stuff out there. Of course, we want to get what's right for our community. But one of the other things that I got to say about conversations I've had with people in Sherwood, and these are sometimes ones where I stare at them for a little bit because they say, well, why do we need so many police officers here? Sherwood's so safe. And I'm like,
That's why it's safe.
okay, I know, but I want them to get them themselves, right? Because sometimes I want them to, and especially with the schools, right? Where people say, well, you know, this stuff doesn't happen in Sherwood. And I go, well, it happens, but it's being handled in the right way. And so I really, I appreciate all those communication avenues, and frankly, showing, you know, not just, you know, the calls that, you know, are unusual or interesting, but the ones that are really serious, and the ones that, you know, that, yeah, we do have problems with drugs. We do have problems with homeless. We do have, you know, and they're not as big as other places often, but we're also handling them in a really, you know, positive way and stuff like that. And so I love that idea of the communication is always gonna pay off big. So thank you for that.
Yeah, they're not as big a problem here as they are in other places because they of the way that they're being handled and how they're being handled. And I really I'm so grateful to you and your staff and all of the police officers within our community. Sherwood is safe. I feel very safe here. My kids feel very safe here, and just incredibly grateful for how hard all you guys work and everything that you do for this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here with
All right,
us tonight.
thanks.
We appreciate it. All right, so now we're just going to open up the table. We've had a lot of really good discussion tonight, but just for roundtable conversation, if there's topics that haven't been brought up that people have on their minds that they'd like to share and discuss before we close out this evening, this is your opportunity to do that. So I'll look for some red lights if anybody has them. Oh, here we go.
There's a volunteer opportunity on Saturday from 10 till noon. Trash Palooza, meet at Cannery Square.
I will piggyback onto that. There's also another volunteer opportunity. We will be out canvassing the neighborhoods to get information out about the levy. And I saw your guys' post go up too about Trashapalooza, and I thought, I wonder if I should get my volunteers to carry a trash bag and pick up some stuff as they're canvassing. The only problem is I don't know how to piggyback what areas, but if you guys want to make some bags or gloves or anything available to us, I certainly have no problem offering them to the people who are going to be out helping us. And I can't speak for everybody else, but I don't see why people wouldn't be willing to kind of piggyback and do both at the same time.
I will wear a yes on the levy t-shirt while I'm picking up trash if you got.
I will find a way to have one made for you because I don't have one. That's even better. But yeah, so I would encourage people, the other people who are not represented here tonight, but I wanted to say something is I know our high school booster program, the athletic boosters, they are really struggling to get some people to volunteer. They have people who've been on that team for a very long time and they are burned out and they are ready to move on. And I think the unfortunate part is when I hear about it, I'm hearing about it when I'm already volunteering on other committees with other people who also volunteer a lot. And so if you are listening and you know somebody who you think would be great at filling one of those roles, I know they would be so incredibly grateful. I don't have the details on what that entails, but I want to see that program continue to be supported. And so I hope some people step up to that challenge.
Me too. I worry that people don't understand just how much the Booster Club does for our student athletes. And think of how many we have, right? How many parents we have of student athletes. And it's one of those things where you don't know what you got until it's gone. And I think that people are in for a shock when and if this booster club goes away. And so if you are a parent of an athlete and you truly value that in our schools, please take the time to reach out and volunteer your time and your effort for our kids. Thank you.
I was gonna say something else, but first I'll piggyback on that. I just know when I was the unofficial team mom of the boys tennis team when my son was on it, the booster club paid for all the uniforms. So that was less money that parents had to put out of their pockets. So the boosters really do a great thing. But also Saturday, Chief, drug take back Saturday?
Yes.
From 10 to noon. 10 to 2. 10 to 2, drug
Saturday.
take back at the PD. Bring your, leftover prescriptions, whatever you have sitting in the house that you need to dispose of, and the police will take care of it for you. Huh? No needles.
So canvas for the levy, pick up trash, and while you're on your way to drop off your old prescription drugs.
Correct.
It's all in one shot. There's Saturday.
I'm just gonna piggyback on the booster club. It was started a long time ago, 25 years ago, when I was in high school, by Greg Lawrence, Coach Lawrence, his wife, a long time ago. And it took a monumental effort to get it going. And in its heyday, it was a massive supplier to our teams and our students. And the fact that they are struggling so hard with getting people on that, it's sad. It's really actually shocking to me because these programs don't get this big by themselves. It takes so much work from parents and students and a community to make a successful community what it is. And I just want to encourage everyone to get back involved. Just start getting there. There's only so much that so many committees that we can be a part of and have time for our families and everything. And I'm happy to go to those auctions and be a part of those activities. But please just start volunteering again. You might enjoy yourself. You might surprise yourself and be there for all 4 years of that student, or all 8 years if you have more. So I just really encourage everyone to, let's get back to it. We are not in the COVID years, and we can get back to it now.
Yeah. And truly, it really couldn't come at a worse time, as we're already facing what we're facing, to also have that cut and have to look for shortfalls there too. And another thing is that, your kids, they do notice. They notice when you're volunteering and getting involved with with the city, with your schools. They notice, and I think it goes a long way. So if that
Well, and there's huge
resonates.
value in having different bodies doing things. I mean, there's a lot of people in this community who step up and volunteer, but that's what you need. You really want different opinions and different ideas and different personalities. And I'm sure my husband is not at home listening, but he always has opinions about athletics and
Well, tell them to be
activities.
on a booster club.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I'm gonna go home and be like, you gotta have some spare time. You could be doing that. Exactly. All right, Director Addison.
I just wanted to, a little bit of a different, I completely agree about all of the stuff on the booster club. I mean, that's part of when I think about our high school and just about our community, what makes it great is that there's a place for everyone to find something that they love. Whether that's in the arts or in sports, or whether, it's the book club at the library, which is my husband's new favorite thing. Whatever that is, that doesn't involve him doing anything with fentanyl. I just want to be real clear about that too, given our previous conversation. Just, reading books and chit chatting about them. But I think that what makes this community really special, is the fact that there is a space and a place for all of us, to find something that we love and something that causes us to thrive. And I just have been, maybe a little reflective. This will be my last, opportunity to meet jointly with this group, as my term comes to an end at the end of June. But I want to make sure that the folks in this community know, there's an election in 28 very short days. We're going to elect 3 school board candidates, and vote on this levy. Sometimes I know folks think, well, this election doesn't apply to me. I mean, nothing that I vote on is really going to matter. This one matters. Local governments, the folks that sit on the council, you guys' elections are in November, of even years. Ours are, May of odd years. These elections really matter. And I just hope that every citizen in this community shows up and makes their voice heard. Because the folks that you see at this table are making decisions that very much impact all of our lives. And so if you have an opinion, show up and vote, because we need you to weigh in. And I really hope, that future boards, whoever those folks are, continue to meet with the city and that this partnership grows. We have a special place here in Sherwood. And the more we work together, the better the value for the community, the better outcomes for our kids, the better growth we can create for Sherwood in ways that we want growth to occur, and do that together and in partnership. And so I just want to highlight, we've got a great thing going here. It's an amazing community. It's such a privilege to live here. And I hope that people show up so that doesn't change. We just have the opportunity to get better and better. And I wish all of you very well as these conversations continue to grow.
That's very kind of you. You have donated so much of your time to the school district and spent countless hours working to support the schools here. So we are very grateful for you. And I know we won't be lost without you. We will carry on, but we will miss a lot of your wisdom. And I know that I'm really grateful that you're a phone call away because you do carry a tremendous amount of history and knowledge about this district that we still need to benefit from. And we are still learning from you in many ways. And so we are grateful for your time and all of your commitments to this district. All right, you guys. Well, with that said, I think everyone's wrapped up for this evening. We are grateful for all of your time. Thank you guys for joining us. It was such a fun meeting. My first city school board joint meeting. We appreciate it. So we will close it out and adjourn this meeting. Thank you.